Hello, everybody. It's Graham Coath with another My Music. Whilst Hannah Rose Platt moves her camera, gets herself into position. Hi, Hannah.
Hey.
Thanks for coming along to the cupboard today to talk to me.
Thanks for having us.
We will watch this video all together from the wonderful Analog Trash. Do enjoy it. We'll be back straight after this to ask Hannah all about her brand new album, which launched only this Friday. What a treat. Hannah, pleasure to have you on.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
I hope your week's going to go better than it did this morning, because Hannah lost her electricity this morning, everybody.
We did.
She texted me in a panic saying, they've taken all my power away.
I was like, I might have to do this from a cafe later, but luckily no. Luckily it's back.
Oh, dear. These things sent to twice, you see. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about you. When did you first start making music?
Oh, I don't want to say the cliche thing of I've always done it, but it's kind of true. I always played guitar since before I can remember. Really, my stepdad played it, and I sort of just he taught me bits and pieces, and I just learnt by copying him. And I don't really remember not being able to play it, which is
wow.
great.
Yeah.
And I always wrote poems and stories over here and played guitar over here. And it wasn't until I was about 14 or 15 that there was a youth worker, a lovely woman who I'm still in touch with, came to school, and she's like, why aren't you writing your own songs? Because I was singing covers, playing covers. And she said to me, you can do this gig. We've got this really cool gig that's like a proper venue in Liverpool, proper theatre, like with adults playing, but you have to write your own song. So if you can write me an original song, you can do it. And I do love a good deadline. So I did it and then didn't really look back after that.
Yeah. Have you stuck to that ever since? Have you always given yourself a deadline?
I do. And I like the sound of them as they're whooshing past. But it helps me sort of motivate. Yeah, it helps me get more motivated. I work quite well under pressure. If I've got ages, I kind of, I need them.
Yeah, you just kind of pontificate and go, yeah, maybe.
I need to not have the luxury of time for all the second guessing and all that jazz.
So you want to do what people like Ash did years ago, when a few years back, when they said, right, we're going to do a single a day.
Yeah,
check it out.
Yeah, not quite that much pressure.
X amount in a month.
Yeah,
but writing's a muscle, isn't it? And we've talked about that on the show before. Now it's important that you exercise the muscle, otherwise it gets stiff.
Yeah, it does. It's so true. Yeah.
Within your writing, then, over the years, have you thrown much away, or does most of it get honed so that it ends up being something?
That's a really good question. I don't throw any ideas away. Not everything gets fully formed. But I very rarely sort of throw anything away or let anything go.
So it's there somewhere.
Yeah, and I didn't. Actually, so funny just thinking about that for this record. Some artists I know really well, and what works for them is to write tons and then choose the songs they love the best. And I could probably do with doing a bit more of that, but specifically for this record, every song was written purposefully for this record in the order that it's on the record.
That's quite unique.
But I think it's because I'm a big nerd and I did so much research around the ideas before. So I was so prepared to write the thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I almost wasn't just starting from the blank page. I'd already done a load of work prior to even writing anything down. But yeah, that's a really interesting question. So
did you actually even have like almost the sort of cover of the record in mind before you started the project then?
Not quite, but I knew I wanted it to represent. I knew I was going to have all these different stories, and I wanted some sort of representation of each story on the cover. And it wasn't until I met the artist, who's amazing. Her name's Alyssa Long, and we chatted a lot about what I wanted on the cover. And she said, "What about like an object from each song, like that represents each story?"
Because it's almost like it's almost like a clock, isn't it?
Yeah. Clock face.
Yeah, exactly. Have you thought about having it made into a clock? That would be quite cool, wouldn't it?
Would be awesome, wouldn't it? I'll have to see if we can do that. We've got quite a few interesting items of merch on the way, but not clocks. That would be a good one.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you have it made on, if you've got vinyl version of it and you just get one of those clock bits for the middle.
Just poke it through.
You're basically there anyway, And then as you go round, how many different symbols are there? I haven't actually counted, but how many different...
off the top of my head, but I think there's 12 or I think there are 12.
There are 12.
Actually, think there are 12.
It does actually work as a clock. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, I might need to give you a percentage of that.
If you want to look up the artwork, you can see it now. So it's a figure standing in the middle of these 12 different items. Take us through some of the different things that, if you like, etc.
The figure's actually made after 4.5 hours. Well, 4 hours in 3.5, 4 hours in makeup, dressed up as a mermaid, which was loads of fun. And each circle, and it's almost like a zodiac thing.
Yeah, it is.
A zodiac map. And each object is from a different story. So there's I'm trying to look. I haven't got one copy in front of me.
You want me to tell you what there is?
We've got a gun.
So you got a gun, yeah?
Yeah, that's for Dead Man on the G Train, which is like a 1930s murder ballad, a hit that takes place on the train in 1930s New York. And then we've got a roll of film is next, which would be to represent Hedy Lamarr, a song about the actress from the 30s, Hedy Lamarr, who's also a great scientist as well, an inventor.
Wow.
And then we've probably got a doll head, I think.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, you're kind of holding the doll head in your left hand.
Yeah, we've got the doll head.
Yeah.
Which is a Home for Wayward Dolls, a song about a creepy doll museum. And then we've got an anchor, I believe, for Mermaid and the Sailor. Then we might have a pair of antlers. Is that right?
Yes.
This is
Do you know what this is like? It's like it's like the generation game, isn't it? In a minute it'll be cuddly toy.
Yeah. It's a good memory exercise for me.
It is. It's very good memory. You're doing really well.
Yeah. All right. So pair of antlers. Then we might have a clapperboard.
Yeah.
So then we probably have got the Grand Central clock.
You have
the kissing room. So yeah, that's about a room that was purpose-built in Grand Central Station in the wartime for people to hide their public displays of affection away.
Wow.
From people. It's not there anymore. So I got obsessed with this idea of the ghost of the room and what happened in the room. So that would be the Grand Central clock. Then I believe we will have a bowler hat.
Yeah. I was going to say, think Mr. Ben.
That's it. But that's for a song called The Gentleman, which is about sort of Cary Grant in The Bishop's Wife kind of ghost, like a do-gooder ghost that goes around helping everyone in really mundane ways. So like finding their keys and taking the bins out and that kind of thing. And then we should have a violin, for Tango with Your Fear.
Yeah.
And then we should have a mirror, mirror.
Cracked or broken mirror, yep.
So that's feeding time for monsters. Then we might have a pocket watch.
Yes.
Yeah. That's another interlude. We're back on the G train for that one. And then we've probably got an angel wing.
You have. You've done it. You've gone all the way round.
Do I win anything?
Yeah, you win a copy of your own album.
Yeah. I win self-validation that I remembered all.
Well, that's brilliant. So you had a very, very clear picture before even starting this of pretty much where you were going with all of that.
Yeah.
What was the initial inspiration then to put this together as a piece of work?
Well, I had the idea years ago before I knew it was going to be a whole album. I actually thought it was going to be a song, just a song at first. And a friend of mine, loads of my friends send me, they know I like all things weird and wonderful. So they'll send me news articles or things that are a bit strange and interesting. And one of my friends sent me, I can't remember what paper it was from. It might have been, I can't remember what paper it was from now, but the headline was London's Real Ghost Trains. And I was like, ooh. And it was an article written by a journalist about fundamentally quite a boring thing, really. He was writing about trains that are kept going for some parliamentary loophole, like it's some reason to keep certain sections of the track open, so no one really goes on them, and you have to, no one really knows that they're running, and no one ever rides these trains. But the journalist told this story so well, the way he wrote it, and he was talking about this shadowy corner of St Pancras, and he had to battle with the ticket office to get on this train. There is no train that goes. Yes, there is. I know there is. And I was like, oh, this is just brilliant. And I just had this idea that the person would do this, like argue to get on this train, and then just had this vision of this person sort of falling asleep on an empty train and waking up, and the train carriage is no longer empty, and there are all of these different characters on the train carriage. And I originally was going to turn it into one song, but there's just far too much in it. One song. And I was like, okay, so there's characters. Each song is going to be about a different character. And that was the initial idea, and it was a long time ago, and it was sort of sitting there bubbling away for years. And then it was a couple of years later, I went out to St Pancras by myself and just bought a notepad and sat there and just had all these ideas for these different characters and different stories, and it sort of came from there.
You didn't get on the train and then fall asleep on the train?
No. That would have been a good experiment.
Have you ever done it? Though?
Well, get on a train and fell asleep loads. Loads. Yeah, I've never missed my stop yet, luckily. On a bus.
I've done it a few times. I used to get up with work. For a few years, I used to have to get into Waterloo from where I am now in the southwest, and leave about 3 o'clock in the morning. So it was, and there was a few times that I'd literally got on, and I'd go past the first few stops, sort of probably get to around Tisbury, somewhere like that, fall asleep, and then suddenly get woken up at Waterloo. So it's quite an eerie feeling, actually, falling asleep on a train like that. Thinking you've kind of missed the whole thing. You wonder what you've missed.
Exactly what. I wonder what you've missed.
Yeah. So you started at a very young age. What was inspiring you from a young age musically?
Oh my God, I hate to be the one that says anything and everything, but literally anything and everything. I was one of these people who...
You were a sponge to music?
Yeah, and my mum and dad just had the most extensive record collection. So
that's cool.
Everything from soul, northern soul, to grunge, Seattle scene, to punk, to the Laurel Canyon artists, to... Oh God, there was nothing was out of bounds, really. I remember being a teenager and somebody said to me, oh my God, you want to check this band I've just found called the Velvet Underground? And I was like, how did you not know who they were?
You kind of already knew.
Yeah, I remember playing Sweet Jane on the guitar when I was really little, my stepdad teaching it to me. So just to have access to all this stuff from I didn't really realize how lucky I was until I got to a certain point, and all my teenage friends started discovering all this stuff.
Did you have to go through that awkward phase then with your friends where they were just listening to the pop of the day, and you were like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, they thought I was a weirdo.
So who then kept encouraging you? Because I think if you're like that with music, and I was fairly similar, I think it's quite important that you have some people in your life around you that encourage you to continue to be like that, because otherwise it can be quite isolating in a way.
Yeah.
Whilst everybody else is getting into sort of like the fashion of the day with music, if you're kind of like, yeah, but I just really love all this stuff. And in fact, I really like exploring it and looking at, So I had a really great music teacher at one point who was like, "I'll forget all of them. Don't worry that, everybody else was into like Culture Club and, they were going, it was all kind of like, oh, if you don't listen to Culture Club or Howard Jones, there was another one, then, then that's music. Everything else is rubbish outside of that." But he was like, "Don't worry, look, I'm going to play you Pink Floyd. I'm going to play you something really weird now and let you listen to it." So I always thank that music teacher, but I also had like, weirdly, and I don't know how my mum let me get away with this, but I had a load of friends that were like 10 years older than me when I was quite young. And that was quite cool because we kind of hung out and listened to like stuff from like Led Zeppelin and Yes, and stuff from a 10 years, 10 years ago. But it was like, oh, well, this is kind of, because they kind of are like, oh yeah, listening to music, it's about exploring it, and but you have to have those people around you, I think. So was there someone in your life that was like that?
I was quite lucky really to have a few. I had a couple of friends who, were always interested in, broadening their horizons musically and having a little dig around for things. And my mum and my dad were, just fantastic. And again, that lovely youth worker who came in to do music with us was always handing us things, And my stepdad was always, I'd hand him something that I'd like and I think he'd like, and he'd just take it off my hands and he'd be like, okay, if you like this, then listen to this instead. Basically, like, this is what informed this music. Like, check this out. It's quite frustrating, really. I've never been able to hand him something, and he's gone, "Oh yeah, thank you. That's new to me."
Oh really?
Yeah, not yet.
Did you used to like to spend time in record shops at all?
Yeah, my friends used to meet in record shop. It was where we'd meet on a Saturday if we were just going to sort of walk around town and go shopping or whatever. We'd always meet at the.
So you never did that thing in the record shop where you kind of like just flick through and went,
"Oh yeah, loads."
That looks like an interesting cover, and then just like take that one home, go, no idea what it sounds like, and he still would go like, "Yeah, I know what that sounds like."
Yeah. Or he'd listen to it and he'd be like, "Yeah, okay, I see what these guys are doing. Check this out instead." Like, I remember giving him Green Day and he was like, "Yeah, okay, here's the Ramones." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
I wasn't there. I didn't have the luxury of being there at the time.
What's the thing as an artist that you found most difficult to get right?
Oh, that's a good question. Most difficult to get right. I guess it depends what you mean by get right.
If there is a right or wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I struggle with the most is it's the classic thing of just like, too much criticism, too much inner criticism, and I've worked really hard to try and suspend that. I don't know if you've read a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Yeah, she calls him Nigel. She names him. She has her inner critic who she calls Nigel. And whenever he's sort of giving her a hard time, she's like, "All right, Nigel, just like be quiet. Let me get on with my work." That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's quite what your question was.
Well, no, it can be. So is it a different thing every time? It's just a little niggle, then, that it's not quite as.
It's just self-flagellation. Just like, the classic thing. I don't think there's a person on the planet that doesn't feel this, like, creator or not. But it's that thing of trying not to frighten the idea away by being too critical about it before you've got, enough of the way into it to finish it.
So was there a song on the album? Okay, so taking the latest album, was there a song on the album that just came like that, and it was just birthed really easily? And then was there something that was quite painful?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was a few songs. Like, oddly enough, the really gross ones came really fast. So the Comedy Cannibal Christmas song came very quickly. And there were a couple of songs that came they were more tricky. And Feeding Time for Monsters was a bit trickier to write because it's me going quite personal into sort of that sort of trauma flashback of certain things that have happened, and I had sort of to take my time and just sort of revisit it, let it sit, revisit it, let it sit. But then, Wendigo Rag, Home for Wayward Dolls, Hedy Lamarr were pretty much written in 1 or 2 sittings. You just have that moment of like, oh yeah, this is what it is, and I can see it really clearly, and I just sort of need to capture it rather than craft it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. In terms of physically making the music, is there something you'd like to master musically that you haven't mastered yet?
Another good question. I think playing piano fully, properly, really well, because I'm
what sort of piano player are you at the moment? Like one-handed piano player mainly, or
two-handed? But this hand, the bass hand, doesn't do all that much.
No. So this is so like triads, whatever, little arpeggios is fine.
Ornamental melodies, and this hand just doesn't do what I want it to do.
And this hand's like,
yeah, I think it's because I've just been it's been guitar for so long, and I find it really easy. It's like it's the classic like adult learner thing of like I want to be able to do it now.
Yeah,
I don't have to wait and practice. I want to be able to.
So when you watch like Jules Holland, playing on his show, and the left hand's doing like everything all over the place. You're like, can you just chop off your left hand and send it to me in the post?
Yeah, it's just like sorcery to me. I love it. I just think, but then it gives me such an admiration for people that can do that. I think it's just a beautiful thing.
So we'll add sort of piano to your list of getting better at piano to your list of things for the future that you want to improve with. What about working with other musicians?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that you know Polly, who was on here the other day. How much have you worked with other musicians in your career?
I've worked with other musicians a little bit. I mean, I've co-written on other people's projects more than on my own project. Although I have written with a couple of other people for this record. Me and Ed, the producer at Harper, and I wrote one. And I did a couple with my partner as well. He's a bass player, so for Wendigo Rag, he came to me. I was like, oh, gives a really good bass line to go off, and we worked together that way. Polly and I have got some plans to write together. We've done one song already together. It's not for this record. This record was already done, but it's lovely collaborating with other artists. It's really lovely.
I like the way that we set that up, so you could just throw in Ed Hardcore just nonchalantly like that. But how did you get to meet Ed?
So I met him through a friend of mine who put us in touch, because I was a big fan of his, but I came to his music later. I only came across his music about 4 or 5 years ago. My partner actually introduced me to his music, and I just was like, "Where's this? How's this happened?
Where's this happened?"
As you just it was the right time for me to fall in love with it for sure, because I was having quite a tricky time at that time, and when certain albums just sort of come into your life when you most need them.
What was the first?
It was from Every Sphere. It was from Every Sphere, and then I sort of delved into everything else, and I just thought he would be just a wonderful person to make this specific record with, because the ideas were a little bit out there, and a mutual friend was in touch, and then we had a few Zoom sessions and just got on really, really well. And I knew he was the right person to make this album with when we were talking about what songs we were working on and what to write next. And I said I really wanted to write a comedy Cannibal Christmas song as part of the horror record, and he just laughed. He just roared with laughter, and then told me to go watch Ravenous for inspiration. So instead of like being a bit disturbed, he was like, well,
he loved it. Yeah.
This is the right person to make this record with. And I asked him did you want to produce it? And he was up for it. And we recorded it like over 5 or 6 days, like really short, sharp, intense chunk of time. And it was just the most fun. He's just so instinctive, and it was the most equal I've ever felt in a sort of producer-artist dynamic.
That's cool. Now, whenever you work with someone like that, you always learn something. What did you learn from Ed?
Good question again. To go with my gut in terms of my mad ideas. So rather than like, I'd come to him with like, what about this? What about that? And rather than be like, I'm not sure, he'd be like, yes, let's turn the volume up on it. Let's go. Take it to the full.
Yeah.
most mad, crazy thing that it can be.
Yeah. If you want to swing the amp from the ceiling, do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And to work fast as well. Yeah, to work fast. And I think we both are big cinema nuts, and I think we come at it from quite a visual place.
Right. Yeah.
If that makes sense. And
yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
More to sort of like, we didn't really talk about, we didn't do any pre-production. We just sort of talked about what kind of atmosphere we wanted. So no parts were worked out apart from the main sort of guitar line and melody lines. Obviously, we sorted, the songs were written before we went into the studio, but we hadn't sat down and be like, well, I'm going to play this bit here and you're going to play this bit there and we want this and we want that. It was like, this is the kind of atmosphere we're going to go for, and we just see what happens when we get in the studio. And that's the playfulness of that was lovely.
How much has changed in the record then from when you did the initial recordings to mastering it? Was there much tinkering there?
No, nothing. We literally
virtually nothing.
They are what they are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's cool, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's unusual as well. I mean, you know, so often like a record can, I mean, and I guess that tells you something about how he wants to produce as well. Mm-hmm. It's not, you know, because some people are all about what happens after the recording's done. And
mm-hmm. Oh no,
what we can make is.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. I love the speed idea. I think the speed idea is important. Really, I think mm-hmm. you can end up with a lot of work. You can end up overcooking it because you just
ruminate
about it for too long, and then it becomes something else.
Totally loses its magic a little. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then you start going, well, actually, do I really want to do this idea? Then I want to do that idea instead, etc. Are you already on to the next idea? That's the next thing.
I haven't written anything fully. I've got.
But have you got an idea?
I've got quite a few. I don't know what's the next. I don't know which is gonna come to float to the surface. There's a few sort of things bubbling, and I'm just sort of we've got the album launch coming up on June 3rd, and I'm sort of after that. I'm going to let myself decide what's next. But there's a few possibilities.
Yeah. What about actually playing this album out?
Oh, lots. Yeah, we'll do that lots. I'll be touring this. But yeah, I'm very eager to get writing again. And
so what will the live show for this look like?
Well, the launch is going to be interesting. But quite atmospheric. We've got the full band on it, so we've got Ed on piano, we've got my lovely friend Simon on drums, great guitarist called Jay Stapley on second guitar. Freddie's going to do double bass and bass, and also Freddie's brother, my partner's brother, plays the theremin on the Ons Martineau, so he's going to be doing sort of spooky sounds. And in an ideal world, I'd take that outfit out on tour. So I think that's probably going to be autumn time. The full band headline shows are probably going to be autumn time. There'll be a few here and there. And it'll be anything from me with a couple of weird guitars to full band, basically. So
lovely. I love a good theremin live. That's great, isn't it?
It's like wizardry. It's like making music.
Isn't it?
Yeah. It's insane to watch. Yeah. You
want to get good lights and a bit of smoke behind that. It's like, woo, yeah. Oh no, that's absolutely brilliant. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming and talking about you and your music today.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's been lovely.
No, it's the pleasure is all mine. For those people that have never discovered you before, mm-hmm. just tell people, because you have a website, so tell people where that is and how they can discover it and how they can kind of sign up to keep in touch with you.
Yeah, so the website is just my name, so it's just hannahroseplatt.com. Socials are pretty much the same. Twitter's Hannah Rose Platt, and I have my Facebook and Instagram hacked before Christmas. And
I know, what was that all about?
I had to start from scratch, and I couldn't have my normal name because that's already taken, even though it's not visible anymore. And both of them are me, but hey ho, that's a whole other conversation. But I had to put so I've got an official after my name on Instagram and Facebook. It's Hannah Rose Platt Official, and there is a mailing list to sign up to on the website, and that gives you access to sort of the short stories that go with the record. I'm going to be releasing them every fortnight.
Oh, wow.
Loads of really good animations done for the songs. There's going to be lots of behind the scenes and making ofs and all kinds of content there.
Oh, so why would you not want to sign up? That's really great stuff. Well, listen, Hannah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you. It has been lovely. Thanks, Graham. Appreciate it.
If you haven't checked out Hannah Rose Platt's wonderful music yet, please do go to her website, sign up, get the little stories as well. And if you buy is the record coming out on the record's out on vinyl as well?
On vinyl, it's gorgeous. It's so the album's called Deathbed Confessions, and it's beautiful gatefold gold vinyl. It's stunning. Really lovely.
So buy 2 copies of it, folks. One to play and then one to turn into a clock for the wall.
Yeah, it would be a good clock. There's a whole other merch idea there. Thanks, Graham.
You see that, so there's a whole thing there. And then and you can, you know, sit round one evening and maybe even with the cover, you could turn it into if someone can turn it into a board game as well.
Ooh.
Right, with all of the different little bits, that would be fantastic. So you know, get creative out there, see how creative you can get with Hannah's latest album, and the winner will win the joy of making it. So because that's what it's all about in life, isn't it? Absolute pleasure having you on today. Thanks so much, Hannah.
Thank you, Graham. Cheers. Thanks a
lot.
Bye
for now, everybody. Bye for now.